You don't crave soda by accident. That moment when the can cracks open, when the fizz rises and the first cold sip hits your tongue, it feels simple, almost harmless. But behind that sensation is something far more calculated. A system quietly operating in the background, designed to make you want more. And then more after that. The feeling you recognize as thirst, that urge to reach for another sip, may not even be thirst at all. It can be a response, one that's been shaped, refined, and repeated so many times that it feels completely natural. And that's here the real story begins, not in the drink itself, but in what it does to you before you even realize it. Sugary drinks are consumed by billions of people every single day. Walk into any grocery store, any gas station, any convenience shop across America, and you'll find entire aisles dedicated to them: bright colors, familiar logos, endless variety. For many people, soda isn't an occasional treat. It's part of a routine. Lunch doesn't feel complete without it. A movie doesn't feel right without that large cup filled to the brim. And over time, those repeated choices add up. Health reports have consistently shown that soft drinks contribute a major portion of added sugar intake, especially in urban populations where access is constant and convenience is king. In some places, people consume hundreds of calories a day just from beverages alone, often without even noticing it. But here's the question that sits underneath all of this. Why is soda so hard to quit? Not reduce, not cut back occasionally, but truly stop. Why does something so simple hold such a powerful grip? The answer isn't just taste, it's not just preference. It's a combination of chemistry, psychology, and strategy layered together over decades. Beverage companies didn't just create drinks, they built systems. Systems that don't just sell products, but shape habits. And most people go through their entire lives without ever seeing how those layers interact. The first layer is something scientists refer to as the bliss point. It sounds almost poetic, but in reality, it's incredibly precise. Back in the late 20th century, food researchers began studying how sugar interacts with the brain. They weren't just asking what tastes good, they were asking what feels irresistible. Through controlled experiments, they identified a very specific balance. Too little sugar, and the brain doesn't respond strongly enough. Too much, and it becomes overwhelming, even unpleasant. But right in the middle, there's a narrow window where the brain lights up with reward signals. That window is the bliss point. For soda, hitting that point isn't optional, it's essential. Every major formula is carefully adjusted to stay within that range. But sugar alone isn't enough. It's combined with acidity to sharpen the flavor, and carbonation to create that tingling sensation that makes each sip feel fresh, almost exciting. The result is a drink that doesn't just taste good, it activates your brain quickly and consistently. And here's where it becomes more interesting. Liquid sugar behaves differently than solid food. When you eat something sugary, your body processes it along with fiber, fat, or protein, which slows down absorption. But when you drink sugar, it enters your system rapidly. The reward signal hits your brain almost immediately. There's no delay, no buffer, it's instant gratification. But your body doesn't treat it as a full meal. It doesn't trigger the same sense of fullness. So even after consuming a significant amount of sugar, you don't feel satisfied. You don't feel like you've had enough. Instead, you feel like you could keep going. And many people do. Sip after sip, without realizing that their brain is being trained. Trained to expect that quick reward. Trained to associate that sensation with relief, with comfort, with something positive. And once that expectation is built, something subtle begins to happen. When the brain doesn't get that reward, it notices. It starts to push back. That's when cravings begin to form, not just for the taste, but for the feeling. Now comes the part that most people overlook. Because it's easy to assume that soda addiction is just about sugar, but it's not. It's about a combination: sugar, caffeine, and habit loops working together. Many popular sodas contain caffeine. Not always in large amounts, but enough to make a difference. Caffeine is a stimulant. It increases alertness, reduces fatigue, and over time it can create a mild dependence. When consumed occasionally, it's manageable. But when it becomes part of a daily routine, the body starts to adjust. And with that adjustment comes withdrawal. It doesn't feel dramatic. It's not something most people would immediately recognize. It shows up as a slight headache, a dip in energy, a subtle shift in mood. Nothing extreme, just enough to make you feel off. And then when you take another sip of soda, that feeling fades. The discomfort disappears. So now, you're not just drinking soda for pleasure, you're drinking it for relief. That cycle craving, consumption, relief becomes a loop. And the more it repeats, the stronger it gets. Over time, it stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like something you just do. But the system doesn't stop there. Because outside of the drink itself, there's another layer constantly reinforcing the behavior: marketing. For decades, soda has been associated with happiness, energy, freedom, and connection. Advertisements don't just show people drinking, they show people celebrating, laughing, living their best moments with a bottle in hand. From major sporting events to music festivals, from family gatherings to road trips, soda is positioned as part of the experience. So the brain doesn't just associate soda with taste, it associates it with emotion. You're not just craving the drink, you're craving what it represents. That feeling of belonging, of enjoyment, of taking a break from everything else. And when those associations are built early, especially in younger audiences, they become deeply ingrained. But here is where the story takes a turn that most people don't see coming. The real effect of soda addiction isn't just what it adds to your body, it's what it replaces. Think about it. Every time someone reaches for a soda, they're choosing it over something else. Most often, that something is water. Over time, that substitution becomes consistent. Water starts to feel less appealing. It doesn't have the sweetness, the fizz, the immediate reward. It feels plain. And slowly, almost unnoticed, preferences begin to shift. This is known as taste adaptation. The more sugar you consume, the more your baseline changes. Natural sweetness like that found in fruits starts to feel weaker. Foods and drinks that once felt satisfying no longer hit the same way. So you seek out stronger flavors, sweeter options, more intense experiences. And soda fits that need perfectly. Now imagine this pattern repeated over years, even decades. In households where soda is the default drink, children grow up seeing it as normal. At dinner tables, in lunchboxes, during celebrations, it's always there. And when something becomes part of everyday life, it stops being questioned. It becomes a habit. And habits are incredibly difficult to break, especially when they're supported by both biology and environment. Public health data has consistently linked high consumption of sugary drinks with increased risks of conditions like obesity and type 2 diabetes. These aren't isolated findings, they've been observed across different populations, different countries, different lifestyles. But beyond the data, there's a human story. A slow shift in how people experience taste, how they make choices, how they define normal. And when you zoom out, the pattern becomes clear. It's not just one factor driving soda consumption, it's a system. A scientifically optimized formula designed to maximize pleasure. Ingredients that reinforce repeated use. Marketing that ties the product to identity and emotion. And a gradual shift in habits that replaces healthier alternatives without people even realizing it. Some governments have started to respond. Sugar taxes, warning labels, restrictions on advertising. These measures aim to reduce consumption and raise awareness. In certain places, they've had measurable effects. People buy less soda when prices increase. They reconsider their choices when they see clear information about sugar content. And that reveals something important. When the environment changes, behavior can change too. Which means the system isn't unbreakable. But it does mean that most people are operating within it, often without being fully aware. And once you see it, once you understand how these layers interact, it's difficult to ignore. That simple act of reaching for a soda doesn't feel quite as simple anymore. It feels connected to something larger, something designed. So the next time you find yourself opening a can, hearing that familiar hiss, feeling that cold rush, it's worth asking a question. Not out of guilt, not out of fear, but out of awareness. Is this really your choice? Or is it a habit that was carefully built one sip at a time? Because the line between those two is thinner than it seems. And once you start noticing it, you might begin to see other patterns to other systems, shaping decisions in ways that feel invisible. So where do you draw the line? Should companies be responsible for how addictive their products feel? Or is it entirely up to individuals to recognize and resist these patterns on their own? That's not just a question about soda. It's a question about the world we live in. And the answer might say more about us than we realize. Thanks for watching, and subscribe our channel for more global exposes.